What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about the unspoken rules in British culture. Except, luckily for me today, they are written right here in this Reddit discussion, actually, where the question was posed: what are some little known unwritten rules in British culture that a foreigner should know about? So this is literally directed at me. I am the target audience for this exact discussion. So this sounds absolutely fascinating to me. I have enough trouble as it is relating and understanding British culture, let alone the unspoken, untalked about, agreed upon rules of British culture that I imagine you only really know if you grow up living in Britain. So this feels like I'm getting a little sneak peek behind the curtain, and honestly, maybe Brits kind of want more foreigners or Americans to know this stuff so we know how to behave ourselves a little bit better. Either way, I'm more than willing to absorb the information. So first we have UK residents can gripe about the NHS, National Health something? NHS. What does that stand for? National Health Service. Okay, this is a British UK healthcare. UK residents can complain about it. That's fine. Those outside, not so much. Americans can get to F. Okay, so basically, UK residents are allowed to complain about the NHS, but Americans, we have it like so bad. Like our healthcare system is so sick and twisted and inefficient and expensive that we can't really complain about it. That's the gist of it. Honestly, I'd be inclined to agree with this. Like any other system of decent healthcare is an improvement over the American healthcare system. So yeah, if I was for some reason getting to take advantage of the NHS's services of healthcare, I don't think there's any room for me to gripe. Even I don't know what kind of things UK residents gripe about. Who gripes about the NHS? We want the NHS in the US. True. Okay. What else do we have? When people ask how you are, the only acceptable response is a positive one. Is this? Yeah, I would not necessarily say this is true in the United States, so this is actually valuable information. Although I can't imagine how many Americans are traveling all the way to Britain. You're getting to experience cultures in the world outside of the United States. Are you really going to go and talk to some random Brit and they're going to say, "How are you?" And as an American, you're going to have a negative response? The fact of the matter is, here in the United States, Americans are more than willing to basically give any response you can possibly concoct in your brain, and some responses that you can't even come up with in your mind. But just because someone asks how you are in the United States, there's no unspoken rule that you have to answer positively or just be like, "I'm doing good, thanks," or a lot of Americans will just honestly tell you how they're doing, and that's considered fairly normal, honestly. Not bad. Getting there. Still alive. Are these these are acceptable positive responses in Britain? Okay. How are you? I can choose from not bad, getting there, still alive. Those are it's funny because those are positive with a sarcastic or negative undertone. How are you doing? Still alive. I like that. That's very British. Living the dream. Okay, that's a good one. Only in a tone dripping with bitter sarcasm. Exactly. It's like British people adhere to the unwritten rule of if someone asks how you're doing, you answer in a positive enough statement, but the undertone is very sarcastic, or at least it can be, which I actually kind of like, to be honest. Said in a completely flat voice, that phrase would come across too upbeat and American. Living the dream. Oh, you have to say it flat, like living the dream. Living the dream. I don't. Am I, is that about right? You can't sound too happy about it. Interesting. What else do we have? Unwritten rules. The thing about Arsenal is that they always try and walk it in. I have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. Is this some kind of British reference that I don't understand? The thing about Arsenal is they always try to walk it in. I'm gonna try to look this up. Is this from something? Oh, it is from something. There's a whole other Reddit thread about it. Soccer team? Oh, this seems to be, this is funny. This is another Reddit discussion someone else created because they don't understand what this phrase means. It's exactly me. I don't understand the reference. Perfect. I know it has something to do with the Arsenal soccer team. Otherwise, I'm in the dark. Please fill me in. Yes, please. It comes from a British TV show, The It Crowd. There's a scene that this relates to. It's a thing for people who don't know about sports to say to sports fan so they can seem like they know about sports. And it's a recurring joke in the show. Okay. The thing about Arsenal is they always try to walk it in. Okay. This is an unwritten rule, though? This is this is definitely some kind of British reference that I barely understand what's going on here. Interesting. Do a lot of Brits understand this? I feel like I am completely out of the loop here. Don't skip the queue, ever. I have heard this before, and it is so funny to me. For one thing, in Britain, it's called a queue, and here it's called cutting in line. We just call it waiting in line, not waiting in a queue or queuing. And Americans, we have an unspoken, unwritten rule: don't cut in line. But that does not stop anyone from doing it. As a matter of fact, there seems to be some kind of strange strategy a lot of Americans employ, where they kind of pretend like they don't understand what the queue is. Oh, are you guys? And they see everyone's waiting around, and they don't ask if you're in the queue. They don't ask if you're in line, and they just kind of mosey themselves up to the front and hope nobody calls them out on it. That seems to be very popular in America, and it's very annoying. I really wish more people respected the queue, like in Britain. So I actually love that unwritten rule, that exists. I'd like that to exist here as well. I accidentally skipped the queue in Cafe Nero. Security guard came up to me and asked me to go to the back. I didn't know I had skipped the line. Wow, the security guards are in Britain are even coming up and saying, back of the line. I would love that. Oh my gosh. I love that about British culture. The unspoken respect for queuing. Love it. I don't know if Americans are ever gonna, collectively be able to get on board with that. I don't know. I don't know if we have it in us. What else do we have here? Crossing road, a zebra. Crossing, put hand up or nod to the drivers? Is this an English sentence? Crossing road, a zebra crossing. Put hand up or nod to the drivers stopping in acknowledgement, thank you. Well, if we're talking about driving and when you have to kind of interact with someone else in a different car on the road and they're letting you go through an intersection or they're waiting for you or anything like that, there's definitely the wave through your window and the nod. That definitely exists in America as well. I'm not sure what this zebra crossing means. Are there a lot of zebras in Britain? I don't catch that part, but the driver acknowledgement is definitely similar. Thank the bus driver as you get off. That seems extremely nice. That is a very nice, polite, very British unspoken rule. But the other reason it's very British is because we're talking about public transportation, which does not really exist in any meaningful way in the United States. Yeah, okay, in our big cities, there's public transportation. Nobody wants to use it. It's not considered very safe or very pleasant or very clean. So, Americans do not like to use public transportation. We all basically own a car because you kind of have to. It's the way things are built, basically, the infrastructure. So, unfortunately, we don't even get the chance to thank the bus driver. I'd like to think that we would if we used buses more, but I can't even say that with much confidence. Please and thank you to the shop staff, waiting staff. I mean, I'm proud to say I think this is an unspoken rule in the United States as well. I think for as much flack as American culture kind of gets, and as loud and overconfident and cocky and annoying as we can come across as, especially when we're traveling abroad, I find, for the most part, Americans are pretty respectful to service people and staff. So that might be one of the unspoken rules that actually is similar to America. When paying for stuff, if you got the odd change, say I've got the 20 pence, for example, when paying for stuff, if you got the odd change, I don't know what that means. Say I've got the 20p, for example. I have no idea. No clue. No idea what's going on here. I would fail this. I would absolutely violate this unspoken rule, and I apologize, but I don't know. I don't understand British money and currency exchanging, I guess. I guess that's what it boils down to. Don't forget the slight jog across the road when you've been acknowledged. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been driving in the United States. And like I said, we drive a lot. We drive everywhere. When Americans jaywalk or cross the road, whether you acknowledge them or not, whether you stop and let them go or not, Americans have no sense of urgency crossing the road. Like, I am pleasantly surprised when anybody crosses the road with even a pretend jog. You know that pretend jog where you're really not going any faster than if you were walking, but you are picking your knees up a little higher and trying to take on the appearance of caring. I would love that even. I would love if Americans did that, but Americans cross the road so slowly, walk as slow as possible. I don't get it. I really don't. I do think Americans might be a little more, I don't know, self-centered than British culture, for instance. Like, really not thinking about other people as much. That kind of relates back to the queuing, the jumping the queue stuff that we tend to do. I tell you, the half run, then walk when a few feet away. Okay. Not all of us like the royal family. This is a topic I really know nothing about. Like, what the average British person's outlook or opinion is on the monarchy, on the royal family. From what limited exposure I have, it seems like most British people are cool with it. They think it's like a really nice kind of tradition. And that's about where it ends. There's a respect that you want to give to the royal family and a tradition that you want to honor. And it is a cool part of British culture, but that's about it. And this is, I guess I never thought about it, but I guess kind of like Americans don't dislike the royal family. We just don't understand it. So a lot of Americans are like, oh, royalty. That's such an old concept. Why do they have that? It's barbaric. It's old. So out of touch. Where, in fact, like, a lot of Americans don't even realize the role that the royal family or monarchy plays in the modern British culture. Like, basically just representatives of Britain, from what I understand at this point. So a lot of Americans don't even understand it to be able to form an opinion. And I don't know, this is interesting. Like, learning that there are, I guess it makes sense that there's going to be British people out there who also are kind of in the same school of thought. Like, oh, like, I don't care about this royalty stuff. Like, we can do away for it for all I care. I guess there's got to be British people out there who are like that as well. Uh, it's weirdly common how often I venture off UK, and I get off UK subs on here on Reddit, and I get an American trying to insult me by making fun of the royal family. They always seem dumbfounded when I agree with them. I feel like that's not the interaction you're gonna get, like, from an average American in real life. That's like a troll, internet American troll comment. Like, oh, the royal family is so stupid. Like, that's, most Americans are like, royal family, that's interesting. That's cool, even. I don't understand it, but that's interesting. That's about the average American, I think. What else do we have here? Unwritten rules of British culture. Don't make a big deal out of religion. Many countries around the world place much more emphasis on religion as a part of personal identity. For sure. And America is definitely one of those places, for sure. And some countries give religion a more central role in society. Yeah, I don't understand at all what role religion plays in British society. I haven't learned anything about that, honestly, ever. So this is really interesting. That could lead to some uncomfortable interactions with Brits who tend to not really discuss religion. Yeah, in a couple different states that I've lived in America, I have run into people who will speak to you about religion openly, and actually they'll openly assume that you are a certain religion, probably Christian, and they will make some kind of reference to that, like that you, assuming you understand or relate or even agree. So that certainly is something that happens in America and has happened to me many times, honestly. But I do think that depends on what state you are in, I have to say. What else do we have here? But that is interesting to learn about, like, how religion and talking about religion is kind of perceived in Britain. Sounds like it's much more, I'm not going to say taboo, but it's definitely not common to bring it up and ask people about it and share your opinion on it, which makes a lot of sense to me. What else do we have here? If you realize you are walking the wrong way and you need to go back the way you came, you must tap your you must tap your pockets and pretend like you've realized you've forgotten something before committing to the turn. I don't know if this is just a British unwritten rule, because I feel like I have unintentionally converged upon this exact same song and dance where you don't want to look dumb, you don't want to look silly, so you pretend like you forgot something, and then you turn around. All right, I'm going to call this an American unspoken rule, unwritten rule as well. It must be clear to onlookers that you knew exactly where you are going, and you are just popping back before returning, just to spare the embarrassment. Wow. Or check your phone and look up in exasperation, as if to say, oh, bloody Mike just changed the venue. I've got to make a turn. That's funny. Okay. That's a very, very American experience as well, I have to say. What other unwritten rules? British culture. Trains are not a communal exercise. We are not there to have a conversation with you. Read your book or your paper, listen to your music, and mind your own business. Okay. I think a lot of Americans do violate this rule. I don't live anywhere where there's a lot of trains. There, frankly, are not a lot of trains in the United States. Again, maybe in cities, maybe there's underground subways and metro stations, underground trains. And in there, it's a free-for-all. It's like people will bug you, people will talk to you, like there's no understood level of like respect that's equivalent to a British public transportation or a British train by the sound of it. But I think in general you're going to be left alone, but it's definitely not an unwritten rule in America. In America, like, I am never surprised under any circumstance if a stranger says something to me. I'm just never surprised. I expect it, for sure. And with that, I think that's pretty good. Man, this is a lot of stuff, a lot of rules I gotta write down here. And honestly, this is a very fun look into sort of more niche, more specific aspects of British culture I've never even thought about. And a couple of these things actually overlapped with like social norms and social interacting in America that I actually have experienced, and a lot of things here that Americans need to know, which is very good that now I kind of know some of these things because we do not abide to several of these unwritten rules. I feel like I feel like everything's just a little more orderly, a little more respect and understanding going on in Britain. That's kind of the feeling I'm leaving with when I compare these unwritten rules to life in the United States. So, I don't know. At the very least, I enjoyed this a lot, and I feel like I learned something. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, perhaps with your idea of a good unwritten rule in British culture. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain, British culture, stuff about Britain that I have never seen or learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.